Hey everybody, it's Josh here again. If you don't already know, I do a lot of content on IT, cybersecurity, and career type things. But today's video is going to be on the top 10 things that you can do to become a more valued employee. The stuff I'm going to talk about in this video kind of comes from my standpoint, which is someone who's worked in some kind of tech for most of their adult life, but it can for sure be applicable to other fields. I know this video might come across as kind of cringe to some people. It's going to look like top 10 things you can do to become a corporate simp. So I'm kind of scared to post it in case the other Josh finds it or something. But basically, it's just a list of things you can do to kind of gain the trust of your peers and management and upper management, because having that like over time will end up opening doors for you, whether it's like for promotions or being asked to convert to full-time from a contractor or these kind of bonuses in your career. You can kind of think about it like compounding interest. Like money is not the only thing that compounds in life. So for example, if you just go around being a jerk and like a dirtbag at work, like you don't work, you're always late. If you do those things kind of consistently, you'll kind of build a reputation from yourself, and then in the end, no one will want to hire you, or they definitely don't want to promote you, and they won't like advocate for you, and like all this stuff is just not going to be really good for your career. Whereas if you kind of do these things that I'll talk about in this video, or kind of become that kind of person, definitely those kind of things will compound over time too, and your peers will trust you, and you'll have support from your peers, which is really underrated, to be honest. And you'll get like trust and support from your direct manager, and kind of it opens up a lot of opportunities for you career-wise, like down the road. And I just want to say, like, I know corporations are not really humans. It's like just a big entity that exists to kind of make money, and it's like cold-hearted and all those things, and I'm like totally aware of that, but there's also kind of a human aspect to it too. Depending on what your aspirations are, you kind of have to navigate that kind of human landscape within the workplace. And I mean, I see my coworkers as humans. They're not just like coworkers. I know a lot of people tend to disagree with that. For sure, like the job and like the work and like money or whatever comes first. But if you kind of like put that aside and just like focus on the people part, that's kind of what I'm gonna talk about in this video. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, let's get started. Oh, and by the way, like all the stuff I'm talking about in this video is kind of stuff I've witnessed in the workplace and stuff I've implemented. So I'm kind of giving my real world opinion on it. So the first thing I want to talk about, or point number one, is to just basically be flexible, especially in IT. Like a lot of the time you're hired to do like some certain job, right? And maybe it's like some certain skill set, like you're doing like mobile device management or something like this. You're hired to do like one certain job. As time goes by, like in the organization, it's possible that your job role like has to shift a little bit to fill some other need or something. And of course, if you don't like the new thing that you have to do, like you can quit, of course you can do this. But like the IT in general exists for a reason. Like it doesn't exist just because it's like cool to play with computers or it's like fun or neat or whatever. It was literally born from like a business need. So IT essentially just helps people conduct business more efficiently. So if the business like kind of shifts, and because the business shifts, your role might shift to support the business in a different way. Management, they love to see like those kind of people who will be accepting of change and like recognize that change is necessary and kind of confront it head on and be like, okay, like how can I support this new need? Like how is my job shifting? A lot of people will kind of adopt this attitude where like that's not what I signed up for, which is like fair enough, right? And you can leave like if you want to. Our whole job as tech people and like software engineers and like all of that, all our job is to support or drive business or like make money or something like this. But again, yeah, it's good to be open to change and be flexible in general. So that's number one, be flexible. And number two is to be humble. No one really likes listening to someone who's like super arrogant, and it tends to rub like a lot of people the wrong way. Like when you want to one up people all the time or like brag about your accomplishments or certifications or whatever, when it's like kind of an unnecessary situation, it's just like really annoying. And for me personally, it's really hard for me to work with really arrogant people, because I kind of feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Like I have to like protect your ego. Like if I have to come to you for some kind of coaching or something, or give you some kind of advice, I feel like really awkward doing it, because I'm trying to be careful that I don't like damage your ego or something like this, because you're too arrogant. So just be humble. It makes you more approachable and less annoying in general. So yeah, number two is be humble. And number three is to be coachable and be able to take criticism really well. I feel like this is something the majority of the population has a really hard time with. So like not only should you be able to take criticism, you should like really actively seek it out from your upper management or your direct management or your mentors or even your peers. Because if you're the type of person who who can't take criticism, no one's going to give you the criticism that you need, and no one's going to help you. Like after a while, if you just blow up every time after someone brings something to you, or you like get defensive or something like this, no one's going to feel comfortable talking to you, and it's going to really like cripple your growth, because getting criticism from anyone, your peers or manager or whatever, is like really useful, and it's a chance for you to like learn something about yourself that you wouldn't have normally possibly realized. So it's really important that you're able to take criticism. Makes you really approachable, and like if you go to your managers like looking for criticism like consistently over time, and you like implement some of their criticism that makes sense, they're gonna like really gain a lot of respect and trust for you. So definitely be coachable and be able to take criticism, and in fact seek the criticism out. And number 4, this one might be like a little bit controversial, but number 4 is to synchronize your thinking with your supervisor. Of course, this only works if you have a competent supervisor, and competent is kind of subjective, so just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But you want to kind of synchronize your thinking with your immediate supervisor. Like make sure you know like what you're trying to accomplish, so you're not like talking past each other, and you're not like prioritizing different things. Make sure you like really understand like what your department or like what your supervisor is trying to accomplish, because if you can do that, it really helps you to think more holistically about your role and like what you're trying to do. If you can show that you're trying to like synchronize your thinking with your manager, they'll tend to like trust you more, which could lead to better things. I mean it could lead to you getting more work and responsibility, but that could potentially be good too. It just kind of depends on where you work. But number 4, synchronize your thinking with your supervisor. And number 5, this one's also kind of controversial, and it's like really corporate simpy, but it's something that I kind of do, or I try to do in my work, and it's tend to work out pretty well for me in terms of like getting opportunities and stuff. So number 5 is basically do whatever you can to make your immediate supervisor look good, because if your immediate supervisor looks good as a result of stuff that you've done and they know, then they're more likely to trust you, and they're more likely to advocate for you. Like if you want to get a promotion, or you want to like move around in the company or something like this. Like if you want something in the future, if you've made your supervisor look good consistently over time, it's kind of more easy to get those things that you want. A lot of people have this like mentality of like us and them, like the individual contributors versus like management. And I get that, because a lot of the times management has like a vested interest in the business. Maybe they get like profit sharing more often than not, or they get bonuses based on returns from the business or something like this. So their priorities like might be different from the individual contributor, who's maybe they're just getting like a paycheck or something. But as an individual contributor, if you can kind of like align your priorities with your direct manager and kind of make them look good in terms of like the deliverables and all this kind of thing, they're going to trust you, and they're more likely, like if this is something you want, to like advocate for you to like make your move into management, or advocate for you to like get something that you want, something like this. So it tends to help to kind of bridge that gap and make your direct manager look good. Again, a lot of people are going to cringe at this. I'm especially thinking about the other Josh. So sorry if you happen to see this, but it's been really useful for me, like in the context of trying to be a good employee in like the corporate environment, if that makes sense. And number 6, this is another thing. Another thing, again, I guess these are all cringe to some people, but number 6 is to like be transparent about everything. Like for me, I don't even care at this point anymore. I'm just like super transparent about every possible thing. Like whether it's trying to get something from another department, or get somebody to do something, or even if I'm quitting my job, like I just don't care. I'm just like super transparent. So for example, my last job, I quit. I didn't make a video about it yet, but I quit my vulnerability program manager job. And for that job, I had to like go to certain departments and kind of like interview them and ask them about their vulnerability management practices, because we're trying to like rope everyone into the same program. So I kind of had to get a survey of different departments and like how they do vulnerability management like today, so I can kind of assess where the gaps are. So an example of being transparent for this, like if I wasn't transparent, I would just like go to them and be like, I'm the vulnerability management program manager here at King County. I need to ask you some questions about your vulnerability management program, and kind of be a hard ass and just ask them the questions without really explaining why I'm asking. And this tends to like make people defensive, and it kind of like drives a wedge between you you and the other person, and it's just like not good for like that kind of interpersonal relationship thing. So I go to the individual departments, and instead of trying to be like authoritative or anything like this, I just be like, I'm just interviewing the different departments. No one's going to get in trouble, and there's no right or wrong answers. I'm just trying to get a feel for vulnerability management across the county to kind of help us build our vulnerability management plan a little bit better. So I give them like as much context as I possibly can, and I tell them like, you can ask me like any questions that you want to, and then I'll even go so far, depending on what we're doing, I'll go so far as to like share my screen, like the notes I'm taking, and kind of let them see what I've written for like the other departments, so they can like really see what I'm doing. So when you're like transparent with people, it kind of like puts them at ease and like lets them be able to trust you more, and then they're more willing to work with you in the future. So number 7 is to persuade by appealing to logic versus appealing to emotion. So what I mean by that is if you're trying to ask somebody to do something or convince somebody of something or trying to convey some kind of information, it's better to be stoic and kind of use logic versus trying to deliberately make them excited about it, if that makes sense. So for example, in my opinion, I'm making this scenario up. It's not exactly what happened, so don't like take this as truth. But so for example, I was the vulnerability management program manager at my last job before I quit, and I have to kind of show certain vulnerabilities in the organization, and I have to kind of convey the importance that we fix them. So instead of just like talking about like what could happen, like, if we don't fix this, like, Equifax is going to happen to us again, like this kind of thing. So instead of that, I kind of just show the vulnerabilities in a way that makes sense to my audience, whereas I don't really need to explain very much. Like they can just see them and like understand and be like, oh shit, like we gotta fix these. So for example, I'm making this up by the way, but maybe I'll show like a component of the county's power grid that I got root access to, and I'm in the console of it or something, and there's like a button that says like turn power grid off for sector A5 or something like this. Or like I show them that I logged into like 100 security cameras pointing at people's desks in the courtroom or something like this. Like I will show this kind of thing and be like, oh, X, Y, and Z, yeah, this is here, and then we have to, make an effort to remediate these, and be like really stoic about it. This is much better than kind of trying to explain like what's going to happen, because a lot of the time, like depending on what you're trying to do, if you can show someone like data or like show them information or something that makes sense, like, appropriate for your audience, that makes sense to them, it can really appeal to them better than trying to like I don't want to say manipulate, but like manipulate their emotions, like make them scared of if this doesn't happen, just like kind of show them the evidence of it. So for example, like you're working in help desk, you get 50 tickets a day, and then 45 of them are for like fixing PST files or something like this. You might want to like take a bunch of that, ticket analytics over the course of like 6 months and kind of present it to your boss and be like, we might want to look into getting like, Microsoft 365, like Outlook or something like this. It will, reduce our labor by like, 80%, and you can save money or something, instead of just like going to them and being like, look how many like tickets we have to fix PST files. Like we're wasting so much time on it. That approach is like not that good. It's better to just gather all of your like quantitative data or like, actual evidence that someone can understand and show it to them and kind of appeal to logic instead of like getting excited about it. So yeah, that's number 7, kind of appeal to logic more instead of trying to appeal to people's emotions. And number 8 is make things easy for people. This is kind of vague again, but a lot of the time, like in technology or anywhere, I guess, you have to, especially as like a program manager for me, I have to like ask certain people to do things for me, because I'm not allowed to like go to a keyboard and like fix something or do something. I have to make somebody else do it, and I'm not allowed to do it. So even though I'm not allowed to do it, the task that I'm making them do, I can kind of make it more easy for them, if that makes sense. So I'll try to like front load it or like give them more information to where all they have to do is like push a button or something like this. I try not to like just push off a lot of work on somebody without trying to take care of it myself first. So a kind of contrived example of this would be, say you're working in some company and you need to get like the motherboard model on, 200 computers, like in some lab or something like this. So instead of just like emailing the admin for the lab and being like, hey, like I need the model of the motherboard of these like 200 computers, and maybe there's like 10 different types of models or whatever. Instead of just like telling him that and being like, go get it for me, like maybe you can make like a PowerShell script that programmatically pulls the motherboard model out and like puts it in a text file. You can like kind of make that script on your own computer and like give it to them and be like, hey, I need to get the motherboard model of these 200 computers. You can use this script and just like run it however you want, and it will easily, get the model for you. That way, like instead of having the guy having to like figure out how to do it, and like maybe he doesn't even know about how scripts work and he's like trying to look at the motherboards, you can just like make the job as easy as you can for him, and because you can't do it yourself, so you make it easier for him, and then people will like appreciate that like over time. It's like one of those things that will compound like over time if you kind of make things easier for people around you. And number 9, this one is to uplift your team, and this will definitely get you promoted in a lot of places. Like I know for sure Microsoft promotes on this actual step. So make the other people around you better. This could like kind of differ depending on the job you're doing, but imagine you're working in like a support team somewhere and you figure out how to do something really difficult, or there's like a really difficult topic that the other support engineers have a hard time with. If you make like training material or like a video, or you contribute to the knowledge base, or you like schedule meetings with people and kind of mentor them, if you make your peers, like if you make everyone better, kind of uplift everybody around you, 100% management gonna notice this. Like it's one of the best things you can do, to be a corporate simp, or be a good valued employee. It's kind of not only like focus on yourself, but like take the things that you've done for yourself that has made you better and kind of share them with those people in your team and kind of bring everyone up with you. That definitely, people definitely like that. So number 9 is uplift the rest of your team. And last, number 10 is to drive business. So in tech, a lot of the time, it's really easy to kind of forget about the mission of the company, or forget about like the big picture of what you're actually doing. Like imagine you're working help desk. It's really easy to like narrow your vision down to be like, okay, I gotta like fix these PSTs. Like, okay, this guy's computer is messed up. But it's really good, and it makes you a valuable employee if you can kind of like step back from those things and kind of realize why you're doing what you're doing, if that makes sense. So for example, if you're a support, like your help desk, basically where your job is to remove those technical roadblocks so the money makers can make money more easily. That's essentially what help desk is. So no matter what your job is, if you're working at a company, you're supporting some effort to make money. So again, going back to the help desk example, if you recognize a trend in things that is like consistently prohibiting people from making more money, or consistently like hindering like sales or something like this, you can like think about a solution to it and like maybe brainstorm and bring it to your immediate manager. So it's kind of good to think about, the big picture of like what you're doing. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had. I've implemented all of these things, and it's served me really well in my career in terms of like working for corporations, like private businesses and local government. It served me really well. Objectively speaking, it's kind of weird for me to say this, but I'm really easy to work with, whether it's like people above me or my peers or like people below me. I'm really easy to work with, and like my employers recognize that, and it's opened up a lot of doors for me. Like when I become jobless, like people will like find me and be like, hey, like come work with me, or like my previous employers will try to like get me, or like when I'm hired somewhere as a contractor, they'll try to make me full-time. This happened like so many times, and it's not because for some like dumb like superficial reason or something. It's pretty much because these 10 things I've implemented. So if you want to be, not everyone wants to be like successful in like the corporate world or have these like kind of conventional jobs, but if you want to have like, conventional job and, gain, support of your peers and management, like definitely this is like a list that you should consider implementing and following. But yeah, it served me really well. I hope some of these were useful. I know for sure like a lot of people are going to disagree with some of these, and I have a feeling like this is going to be like my most downloaded video. But I'm super curious to hear your thoughts on like all of these. I definitely read and respond to all the comments. Yeah, just don't forward this video to the other Josh. I'm not sure if my channel can take that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next videos. Bye bye.